Good evening. I'd like to call the special board meeting of February 21st to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let it be noted that all directors are present. Now we will move on to approval of the agenda. Mr. Bartz, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda tonight.
No changes. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Are there any members of the public? Does not look like it. Nobody online? Oh, okay.
Do you want to do that?
And then we will move on to item 3, the budget workshop. Mr. Bartz.
Okay, so I think we're going to start off with the discussion regarding the budget policy, and Lori's going to take that really quick.
We've been operating under the existing budget policy for several years now. Staff is not making any recommendations for changes at this time. There were a few minor grammatical things that we needed to change, just to kind of tidy it up a little bit. Do you want me to go over those, Kim, or do you want to go over them?
Oh, whatever you would like.
All right, so for example, on big page 9, 1.5, it references the beginning of March, and we're going to make that at the beginning of the budget period. How did you?
We're going to remove from before all the way to adopted and change it to prior to the beginning of the budget process each year.
And then on the next page, at the very top paragraph, it says the account method used for both documents will be the accrual method of accounting, and we're going to just say the method used for both documents will be the accrual method of accounting. Eliminate the one word. And there was some, yeah, that was pretty much it, just very minor. There are a couple of punctuation issues that we're going to fix as well, but nothing to speak of.
Okay.
And unless the board had any, did you want me to go through it more thoroughly, or are you comfortable with what we?
I read through it and I'm comfortable, but if any of the board members would like, we can go through it.
No, I'm good.
It's pretty straightforward, and so. So we need to revise the.
So there's two options. You can adopt this resolution with the changes, and it will be assigned a new resolution number tonight. Or we can just bring it back as part of the consent calendar at next week's meeting, which would probably be simpler.
Okay, I'm okay bringing it back if everybody else is. All right.
The easy button.
We'll bring it back. Are we back to Mr. Bartz for
Yeah.
the capital plan?
Thank you. Now we're going to go through the capital improvement projects through the plan, and George is going to lead us off with the engineering portion of that.
And I'll start off with Mr. Wright.
Thank you, George and Don. Line 1 is our chromium mitigation projects for the fiscal year 24-25. We have $150,000, so well 12 has been profiled, and the time's coming to enact the profiling measures we have, and we've held off about as long as we can with well 15 coming online. Placing the packer in well 12 will mitigate the chromium below 10 part per billion, and that $150,000 for fiscal year 24-25 will allow us to do that. And then as we look kind of towards the future into 25 and 26, we do have some additional production supply in well 18, and an additional storage tank. And then as we move on into line 2, that'll be Mr. Cardenas.
Item 2, that's Civic Center project. In fiscal year 23-24, we have actual costs expense for this project to date. And I'm pretty sure that's going to increase here in a little bit, probably next couple of weeks. And for 24-25, we have budgeted $8 million. The plan is to go out to bid in June, and once the NEPA has been approved by FEMA, then the plan is to kind of award the project to a contractor as a recommendation to the board. Item 3, that kind of remained unchanged, 4 and 5. What was recommended at the engineering committee was to be a little bit precise on what the intent was for, as far as the linear footage of pipe with the replacement of a 6-inch, for example, with a 12-inch. Those are all part of the water master plan for 22-27 and 32-42. And those were all moved out 1 year for item number 4. And I'll kind of leave it to Sean to continue.
Line item 7, under land for future expansion sites, in general, that $100,000 that we budgeted for 24-25 does and does not tie back into line 1. That gives us budget to go ahead and begin. Where do we place the new wells? That is slated for property acquisition for future expansion, such as well 18. Line 9, happy to report we have no money budgeted for that in the fiscal year 24-25. Why is that? Because the meter project will be done. The guys have been working really diligently. We got 235 meters as of this morning. That number went down today, so we're hoping in the next couple weeks that project is complete. And as soon as it is, we'll report back to the board. Number 10 for boosters. We broke this out into several categories. Booster replacements, we have the electrical panel replacement, the building replacement, and pump and motor and pipework replacement. We've budgeted $135,000 for our electrical panel replacements at some of our booster sites. Really what that does is allow us to at least one site a year start addressing. Some of our panels are 30, 40, and 50 years old. Parts are getting hard to come by. We've even had to resort to eBay to buy several components to full disconnects. And same with our motor control centers. Our MCC panels are getting old and parts are getting hard to come by. So what that money will allow us to do is wholesale replace at least one site, both the main electrical panel and one motor control center. And we're hoping some of the smaller sites we can get 2 in a year. Line 11 for reservoirs, we have nothing budgeted until the fiscal year 26-27 for the future storage at Site 2. And then line 12, George is going to take.
Yeah, item 12, that's the urban water management plan. It's that time of the year to begin that process to prepare an update for the urban water management plan next fiscal year. We anticipate starting later in 25. That'll kind of lead us into the completion in late 25. Well, actually, the adoption would then be in 26. So they kind of take the December 31st as a date for the review and approval. So we have that budgeted and split. And I'll leave 14 for Sean.
Under line 14 for vehicles, under enterprise capital purchases for the fiscal year 24-25, we budgeted $72,500 for the replacement of one field truck. Line 15, nothing on our servers. And then moving under our enterprise 10-year repair and maintenance plan. Line 1, we do have our
Okay, Sean, I'm gonna, let's take it section by section.
Okay.
So if the board has any questions or comment on the enterprise capital improvement projects, we'll hit those, then we'll just do it each section as we go.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the enterprise capital, the land, number 7. How many pieces of property are you looking to purchase with that 100,000?
Tentatively one.
Just one? Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Sean.
All right. Line 1 on our enterprise 10-year repair and maintenance plan. We do have our tank maintenance contract with Superior Tank Solutions. The last of the large payments of $267,200, and what that amount buys us is we get 10 interior washouts for our reservoirs, and that's about a 3-year round robin. And we've completed our exterior coatings. That contract got us 12 exterior coatings, and then one of our large million or larger interior coatings, where they come in, sandblast the interior coating, and we recoat it. Line 2 is our PRV maintenance for our pressure reducing stations. Line 3 is our well rehabilitation. Historically, we tend to see 1 to 3 wells a year fail. We hope that with well 15 coming online, wells 2, 3, 5, 8, 9A, and 9B will sit more idle. They become more of a seasonal, so we're effectively sitting idle 5 or 6 submersible wells in lieu of 1 vertical turbine. Again, that's more efficient, so we hope to see in the future our repair and maintenance costs on that go down. But for the fiscal year 24-25, because of historical averages, we're asking for basically 2, the rehabilitation of 2A, well 5, and an emergency well rehab. Line 4 is our booster rehabilitations, and that is basically where we go in. A lot of our boosters, we have over 90 booster pumps in the distribution system, and a lot of those have older stuffing boxes. So we're converting those over to mechanical seals, so there's 0 waste. Where we don't need water to cool, that water is captured, contained within the system, and this line allows us to do that. Line 5 is our SCADA, just minor upgrades. It's $5,000. PLCs fail from time to time. This basically allows us to replace 1 or 2 PLCs kind of as they die out. Our Line 6 is our PRV and emergency bypass. These are more of our tie-overs and interties with neighboring districts, and that $10,000 allows us to maintain those. Line 7, our leak maintenance program that kind of gets broke out into 2 components. Component number 1 is our service line replacement. That's $150,000, and we do notice a bit of a step up there from last year. Why is that? We use a Municipex. It's a crystalline structure C poly. It's blue in color. Basically what that means is the molecules are more dense than that of the older stuff, meaning it's a better material. We used to get that for about $1.25 a foot, and today it's $5.10 a foot. These are just some of the material chain increases we're seeing. We see that in pumps, motors, but really significantly we're seeing that in our poly, and that kind of explains that step up. And then the second component to the link maintenance program is our water pipeline lowering program. We have budgeted $61,000. I believe this coming year is Wolf or Butte-Mere.
No, Nielsen and, yeah.
Okay.
It's about a mile.
So we've broken that into multiple phases over 7 years. And as the tropical storm we had this year kind of highlights, we have many areas in the distribution system where our main line is a little bit shallower than we'd like that. So we found it much more cost effective if we remember back to our Wilson Ranch project where we brought in over, I want to say 4,500 tons at a cost of less than $80,000. Instead of lowering those mainline sections, we bring in material so we get the same achievement. Getting those pipelines deeper is just, this is a much more cost effective way of doing that. So we budgeted $61,000 for this just about mile of pipeline. Number 8 is our solar O&M through SunPower for $35,575. Line 9 is our SCADA maintenance contract. So on top of the little PLCs failing here and there, we do have a maintenance contract for antennas that get knocked out of alignment, programming and such. Line 10 is our lab analysis. Why is this in there and why is it a little bit more than we'd like to see? Because this coming year is going to be the UCMR 5 sampling event. That's an EPA mandated event that we have absolutely no control over. Luckily, we were able to save about $10,000 because they changed some of the requirements from UCMR 4. So,
John? Yeah, and then UCMR's unregulated contaminant monitoring rule.
yes, sir.
Yes.
And then line 11 is our site maintenance, our vegetation mitigation with our CAL FIRE crews. You might see their trucks running around from time to time, and that $6,000 allows us to mitigate all the weeds at all of our sites. Happy to answer any questions on our repair and maintenance plan.
On line item number 1 for tank and reservoir maintenance and rehabilitation, do we have cathodic protection on any of our tanks?
Several of the newer tanks, yes.
Okay.
We have 36 reservoirs, and to answer your question, I believe 3 of them have cathodic protection, leaving 33 without.
Yeah. And when we rehabilitate those, do we look at putting that on once they've been done?
We have, and especially the new, that's the electronic cathodic protection.
Yeah, induced?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Do we still have some power to do the operations and maintenance of the solar system? or are
No, we do
working-
not. That's a discussion that we're having with Steve Kennedy. The O&M agreement is basically going to be redone with another company. We're working on that right now. Prior to that, we're working on getting some of the things that they didn't fix completed, and also truing us up on the production of the site out there. So we'll be coming back to the board and through the committees with that to give you an update when we have one. But we're working on that right now.
So that they went probably close to 35, 36.
Yeah, I was going to ask George, what was it 35? Or,
Yeah, the proposal we have received falls within that 35. so.
yeah, so we're trying to find a new company. It's hard to find somebody who even does that. But
And
I think
locally
we're-
as well.
I think we're pretty good.
Thank you.
So the next portion will do the governmental funds capital improvement projects. Under number 1, we have $4 million, and that is a kind of a placeholder, tentative placeholder for matching funds for any grants that would receive. And also construction, $915,000 on that. Number 2 is the governmental portion of phase 1, $2.8 million. Dropping down to line 4, legislative, that's for $15,000 for a pole, and hopefully that'll go towards funding our future parks. Number 5 is the Piñon Hills Community Building. This is the old fire station, and that's rehabilitation on that. We're going to have a community meeting soon, and we'll also be making some determination once we decide what we want to do and what kind of funding it will take to get it back into shape. And then solid waste and recreation, $40,000 for potential capital projects. Governmental funds, capital purchase, solid waste, we have a vehicle for $65,000. And that is it for that page, unless anybody has any questions.
I just noticed that there was an omission from when the committee met, I think, just when we copy and paste things. For line 6, we had $35,000. That's just for the rate study analysis report. We do anticipate that will be covered by grant funds, but in the event it's not, we do want to make sure we have some funding available for that.
That's Jane, that's really 50,000 in there, so I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
Jane.
So it was going to be 50,000 when we thought we were going to have to pay for the entire study, and then CR&R has agreed to pay for half. And so we're just keeping 35 in there in case it goes over or any unanticipated costs arise. And then again, we are anticipating that we can use grant funds to pay for that.
Okay.
Okay, and on to the last page, governmental funds, repair and maintenance. Community centers, under number 8, HVAC system, $12,000. if they fail. Steve, have we had to even replace any since we've been, I think we've gone 10 years without,
I mean, we do have one that we figured out that when we have to put any kind of money into again, one of them next door will be replacing.
okay. So we've been pretty poor. We use that as kind of a placeholder every year in case something goes out. Drinking fountains, $1,500. Kitchen appliances, $7,000. Water heaters, $5,000, and these are if needed. Existing parks under number 11, landscaping, $13,000. Tables and benches, $2,500. And bathroom facilities, $3,500. And that takes us to the end of the, that section of the meeting, unless somebody has any questions.
Yeah, just had one question about the current park expansion over here. Is there anything in this, when is that going to happen? And,
The ARPA portion,
pardon me?
the small improvement?
Yeah,
Yeah, so like the pickleball court, the senior fitness equipment?
yeah,
Yeah, that's on the item number 1. So the bottom one, 915,000. And then the note does indicate that half of that is coming from the grant. And that is anticipated to actually start construction in the next fiscal year, not this fiscal year.
so next, this,
The green, it needs to be in the green. Yeah.
so it's not going to be in the green fiscal year?
No, it will be. Yeah, we're in the
Okay,
process of design right
So will
now.
it be finished, and is there any additional costs that will, to maintain that? I don't know. That's
Yeah,
all.
the maintenance on that is going to be very minimal. When we start getting into the bigger phases of the park that you're seeing on the screen flash at every meeting, we got to find our funding for that.
Okay.
And that's going to be a pretty heavy lift when we get to that point.
Are there any other questions for staff?
Yep.
All right. Do we need consensus on this item? Looking for that?
Sure, we'll take consensus.
Okay. I am good with it. I'm good with it. Good.
Yeah, engineering went over the water park a couple of times, so.
All right, we'll move on to discussion and possible adoption of the reserve schedule for 23-24. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Mr. President. David is going to present this item, his kind of first time going through some of this in finance.
Thank you, Don. Staff recommends for the board to approve the 2023-2024 reserve schedule in compliance with the attached resolution 2023-07. On the next page, page 24, is the reserve schedule. We look at this every year after the financials have been audited and our numbers are ready to go. These are set up, if we look at the unrestricted reserves, item 1, it's based on our overall expense budget, and the total reserve for operations is slightly going up to $1,846,000. Item 1B, the reserves for property, plant, and replacement. That number we need to bring down a little bit due to, we've been using some of the reserves for the funding for the well and the meter replacements. So normally in prior years, we have a target of 3 years of the annual depreciation amount. And I had to reduce that down to 2 3/4 years to make the numbers fit with our overall cash balance right now. So it's going down slightly. The disaster reserve is going up slightly to $4,034,000, and the rate stabilization reserve is going up a little bit to $383,000. So our total reserves at $10,436,000. Overall, it's a slight reduction of $115,000. That was all, yeah, that was all for the enterprise fund. Everything's stays the same for the government fund. So do you guys have any questions on that?
I don't have any questions.
Any other questions? No questions, okay.
That's it, no questions? And
I had one comment.
Oh,
On
okay.
page 28, on the document itself for the policy for district reserves, under item 1.2. The third sentence down, it looks like we're missing the word "for" down there. It says equal to 2 times, not to exceed, and it should say 4 times.
That is correct. I didn't notice that, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. So I
That's
guess,
the only comment I had on that.
Good catch.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to adopt the reserve schedule for 23-24?
I'll make a motion to adopt the reserve schedule for 24, 25, is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yes. And I will second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Are there any current meeting action items?
Yes, we will be bringing back the budget policy and the reserve policy with the corrections we spoke about tonight as part of the consent calendar at the next board meeting.
Okay. Do we have any director's comments for the night? Nope. None from me either. Staff comments?
No comments.
No comments? Well, with no further items on the agenda, we can adjourn at 5:28.